Hi there, and welcome to the latest edition of TokStocks Live. In this episode, we're actually going to do a follow-up on an episode that we did about a month ago called Full Send Commodities, where we basically did a full send and went in and invested in a basket of 10 different commodity stocks. Without further ado, why don't we jump in? As I said, this is the follow-up to an episode that we did a month ago called Full Send Commodities. And in this episode, we're doing a follow-up on that, and we're going to see how we're doing. So before we get too far into it, let's just get the fine print out of the way. The disclaimer: this is not investment advice. This is for information purposes only. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. And I have probably made errors in this presentation, so make sure that you do your own due diligence. So what is a full send? Well, it's when one segment or one sector really starts to work for a high percentage of all stocks that are within that sector. It's when generalist institutions and investors start buying. It's when Bay Street and Howe Street start closing large private placements, and they start agreeing on things. So the FOMO, fear of missing out, equals MOMO, so momentum. These full send moments can last weeks, months, and sometimes years, but you got to be nimble because they don't last forever. Some recent examples have been in gold, in cannabis, in psychedelics, lithium in electronic vehicles, crypto, the vegan or better for you play, and more recently uranium stocks. They become in vogue. Everybody needs them. You put them in your portfolio, and then eventually it's like a game of musical chairs. Eventually the music stops and you still have a chair to sit on. You have to remain pretty nimble. Back in March, a lot of the interest around commodities and why we did a full send and decided to pick a basket of 10 was due to the conflict that's happened with Russia and Ukraine. With Russia basically being sanctioned into financial oblivion, or that's what they had hoped. Also with Russia and Ukraine, for that matter, being so involved in the commodity cycle, whether it's grain, whether it's wheat, whether it's gold, whether it's oil. There's a lot that are sort of running through those countries, and it does take a lot of time for new supplies, new sources of commodities, new mines to be brought online. And for this, you can just ask Germany. Why don't we have a look at this clown show? Back at the end of December, they were actually phasing out nuclear power plants, and they were going to rely more on Russian gas, Russian natural gas, the pipeline. It seems pretty unbelievable that a country that at one point in time had, I don't know, over a dozen active nuclear reactors, that they since they're going to be phasing all of them out. And just at the end of December, they phased out 50% of the remaining 3 out of their 6 remaining nuclear reactors. They've decided to phase out and shut down. Seems pretty amazing. It seems almost like maybe there's something more going on than we really know because of this type of geopolitical stuff and what's going on in Ukraine. Because of that, commodities have really been, their prices have really appreciated. And as a result, investors have been scrambling to get into stocks. So back on March 9th, we bought a portfolio of 10 different commodity related stocks. And let's see how we did over the last month. What we did is we allocated roughly about $10,000 to each stock, and we built a $100,000 portfolio. What did we buy and how have we done? Well, if you guys want to check, you can actually go to the link there right at the top. It's a public portfolio on Yahoo, so you can go and have a look. This is what we call a virtual portfolio. It's not real money, this version, but we put it together so that we can track how we're doing, our performance, the things that we're talking about on our channel. So how did we do? Well, we're up 7.2% in 1 month. And if you annualize that over 12 months, that's just under 100%, or it's just over 86% annualized return. So why don't we go through and see how each of the individual 10 stocks have done which ones are up, which ones are down, what percentage, how we did. So the first one here, Critical Elements Lithium Corp. Back on March 9th, we bought 8,000 shares at $1.27. And April 8th, a month later, $1.64, we're up almost 30%. The individual that alerted us to this was a gentleman by the name of Grant Beasley. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to put the links so you can go and follow these people as well. But obviously, bravo. Thank you, Grant. Another great call. He's had lots of good calls. I wish we'd actually just put together the full Grant Beasley portfolio because he's had a couple of really good ones, this being one of them. Another Grant stock is one called Mako Mining Corp. It's a near-term gold producer. On March 9th, we bought 30,000 shares at 37 cents. It's up a little, not as much. It's up modestly, just under 7%, 6.8%. Anyways, again, this was courtesy of Grant, who spends quite a bit of time providing updates and mentioning Mako. Here we go. Another one of Grant's favorites, Wheaton Precious Metals Corp. It's like a royalty and streaming corporation. Back on March 9th, we bought 200 shares at $61.80. It's up about 1.1%. Next one is SSR Mining. Back on March 9th, we bought 400 shares at $27.62. And as of April 8th, it's $28.66, up just under 4%. Again, another Grant pick, another one that he's mentioned and puts on his Twitter. His Twitter, by the way, I would definitely urge you to follow. It's gold. It's got a lot of humor, got a lot of insight, a lot of technical charts, and a lot of good information. So we also, on March 9th, bought 1,000 shares at $12.38 of Energy Fuels Inc. It's a uranium company. That one's actually down a little bit, 1.1%, despite uranium doing really well and a lot of the individual securities doing really well. This one had already had a fairly big move into the $12 sort of range, and so it hasn't sort of moved up for us. On March 9th, we also bought 50,000 shares at 19 cents of Santana Energy. This one's not been a great performer. I think it's been our worst individual performer. It's down just over 21%. Let's see what else we got. Here we go. This one's looking better. We also bought another energy play, Trillion Energy International, TCF, on the CSE. Not a bad, certainly not a bad ticker if you're going to be in the gas space. And not only that, it was a great call. It's up almost 50%. We bought it at 26.5 cents, 40,000 shares, and April 8th, it's at almost 40. So that one's up almost 50%. So Carson obviously redeems himself on that one. Here's another one, Silvercrest. It's in the silver space. Silver just hasn't really been able to get out of its own way. It always seems to be a lagger. I don't know what it is in the commodities. Where's this silver squeeze that they're talking about? It's been a while. But anyways, we bought 1,000 shares at $12.10 on March 9th. And April 18th, it's down a little bit. It's $11.41. We're buying it right at a resistance point. We were wondering if it was going to break out. Well, over the last month, it hasn't. So it's down 5.7%. We also bought 1,200 shares at $8.58 of K92 Mining. This one's definitely a darling of Bay Street. And since we acquired it a month ago, we're up about 4.5%. This one came courtesy of one of the co-founders, Brian Suzarchuk. Brian's an executive of a number of resource companies, all of them doing fairly well. Make sure you go look him up. You can find him on Twitter at SluiceCap. Again, I'm going to highlight these people at the end so you can go and follow them. But that was a good idea from him. Here's our last pick. It's our 10th stock that we added. It's one called Grizzle Growth. It's actually an ETF. On March 9th, we accumulated 100 shares. It's a little bit less liquid at $23.28. It's up almost 10%. And this one came courtesy of Thomas George, who's involved with Grizzle. He's a great personality also on Twitter. Definitely worth the follow. So their basket approach has done quite well. They've been focused a little bit more on the commodities, gas and lithium, and they've had a couple of really good individual stocks that have moved up and as a result increased the value of their ETF. So just to give a little bit of a breakdown on how we performed, 7 out of 10 of them were up in the green. Our best one was our TCF, up almost 50%. Again, thank you, Carson, for that idea. Your Instagram is definitely worth following just for that alone. How much were we up in total over those 30 days? Just under $7,400. And again, so you guys can go and check out this portfolio anytime you want. The URL's at the top of the page. As with any of the companies that we mentioned on our channel, we add it to a virtual portfolio where you can go and check and see how these stocks are doing after we've mentioned them on the channel. At the end of the day, we're investors first, so we want to pick ideas that we are interested in, are going to follow along and see how they develop. As I indicated, if you want to follow some of the investors that we highlighted, they're the ones who provided some ideas. We follow them on Twitter and Instagram. And what we decided to do was use that as a source for basically building this basket. So if you want to follow them, I've put their links here. Please go and do so. They're all very entertaining in their own unique way. Look forward to seeing what other things they post. And if we missed any, what are your favorite commodity stocks? Let us know in the comments below. That's our update. That's what we've got for you today. Thanks very much for watching and happy investing.